Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Melanie. This is Adventures in Hostessville, and welcome to episode 12 of the Vintage Magazine Project and the final week of the March 1969 I Magazine. Ba-da-bum, ba-dum-bum, bum, ba-da-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So today I'm going to be doing a little bit of redecorating with the help of the I Exchange, which is on the very last page of the magazine. And it's a place for readers to write in and try and connect with other like-minded people because there's no internet. And so you get things like, help, I am interested in reading anyone's adventures in sign thievery. Or, I am an eccentric warlock who has the ability to walk on water looking for a voluptuous witch who can do the same. There are so many of these, I can't even begin to read them all here, but they are amazing, so I will actually make a separate video, and I'll put it on Patreon. I'm getting started today taking some advice from Mabel. Wanted eyes, eyes, and more eyes. Cut them right out of your favorite magazine and send them to me. I'm in the process of wallpapering my bathroom, and the eyes will add a final touch of uniqueness. And then she gives her home address, because you could do that in 1969. Now, I'm actually relatively happy with my bathroom the way it is, but I do have this big blank space in my rumpus room. I know it kind of looks like a home office, but, you know, business in the front, rumpus in the back. Apparently, collages are all the rage, and there's so many people asking for assistance. For example, there's this person, I want miniature posters or anything about 3 by 4 inches. I really have a thing about cats, whether they be household or wild. If you send me a photo of your pet, my cat and I will send a foreign coin to show our thanks. My cat's name is Delilah. So these are the things that I am looking to find. Oh, here, look, Drew Barrymore has eyes. Am disposing of collection of 57 liquor bottles, pay only postage, different sizes and brands, more info on request. There is almost no chance that this person is not a college student. Okay, so I'm gonna add some bottles to my collage. I don't actually have a lot of liquor bottles around, though. I've got this Kahlua and this creme de menthe that my sister left at my house when she moved to Ireland in 2015. But I wanted a few more, so I checked the building's shared recycling, and it turns out my neighbors' drinking habits are vastly different than mine. But you know what? This liquor bottle guy isn't the only college student to write into this. Wanted helpful hints for overthrowing an oppressive administration. Send all suggestions to Box 118, Bowditch Hall, Salem State College, Salem, Massachusetts. Please, no guns, knives, or other implements of destruction desired. This is to be a peaceful revolution. And it seems like there was a protest at Salem State College in October of 1969 called the Moratorium on Vietnam. It was 1 day long, and it looks like it was pretty peaceful. But at this point, we are right in the middle of one that is not very peaceful, the strikes at San Francisco State. Needed desperately, prune pits for center of a giant collage. Will reward with an original poem or short story from our book, Moving Through the Prunes in June. Send to Dusty and Duchess of Sacred Prune, Inc. P.S. Write anyway. We need friends. Prunes don't really come with pits anymore, so I wasn't sure what to use. And the one thing I had around my house that does have at least seeds in it is this squash. So I'm going to use this. So you'd think that the longest student strike in history would be at like Berkeley or Columbia or something. But there were a number of things going on at San Francisco State in the 60s that made it sort of the perfect place for this sort of activism to foment. Now, usually when you're reading about the strike, the thing that they will cite as the sort of inciting incident is the firing of this teacher, George Mason Murray. But there was a lot more to it than that. One of those things was that because it was a commuter college, and so you've got generally an older student body. The average age, I think, was 26. And what that means is you've got a student body that is perhaps a little bit more politically experienced. You've also got this massive increase of diversity in the city itself at this point. So immigration laws in the United States changed in 1965. So by 67, 68, you're really seeing that trickle through. So even though the school itself is only about 5% students of color, comparatively, it is diverse. We've just had the assassinations of MLK and RFK and Malcolm X. You've got the Black Panthers forming at this point in Oakland, which is just up the way. And you've got the Vietnam War. So there's a lot of activism around that as well. Specifically in the student body, you've got the Students for a Democratic Society, which is pretty left and pretty active. And there's already been, in the spring of 1968, a pretty big sit-in. The student body has found out that the administration is supplying their academic standing to the Selective Service Office. So one of their demands is for that to stop. They also they want the ROTC off campus, specifically the Black Students Union. What they want is more representation in faculty and student body, and they want more curriculum for Black studies. They feel like a lot of the curriculum that is being offered isn't really reflective of their experience. There are some Black studies classes at this point, but they're looking for more. Wanted, 4x4-inch pieces of cloth to be pasted on my ceiling. Please send to the Coos. So the Black Student Union actually had a bit of success. I think they had 400 additional slots. And it was kind of weird because the administration clearly just didn't know how to recruit students of color. So they kind of were like, okay, here's your slots, BSU, go and put some kids in them. The standard admissions process does not favor everyone the same way. So what the Black Student Union said is like, we're gonna go out, if you can give us your name, your address, and your social security number, you're in. And one of the students actually who got a slot that way was Danny Glover. And there were a lot of other ones too who were also awesome, but just not in Lethal Weapon. But now there are all these other campus organizations, like there's a Chinese American students group and a Filipino students group and a Mexican American and like all these different groups. And they see that the Black Students Union has gotten all these slots and they're like, hey, wait a minute. So they go to the administration, but basically the administration's like, I don't know, we gave a bunch to the Black kids, go ask them, just tell them to share. So these other groups go to the Black Student Union and they're like, the administration said you would give us some of their slots. And the BSU is like, no. First off, we don't have enough as it is. Secondly, we are not the administration. Like, it is not our job to determine the percentage. And they're like, and also, we fought for this. So if you want it, then you're gonna have to fight too. So what they decide to do is all of these groups, the Black Student Union and all of these other, they create this umbrella organization that encompasses all of them that they call the Third World Liberation Front. Now, Third world is not a phrase that is preferred these days, but at the time, third world was how they identified, and sort of the idea, I think, was that it was all oppressed peoples, sort of like internationally. And the Liberation Front part, of course, comes directly from the National Liberation Front, which is the Viet Cong, and that brings us back around to George Mason Murray. So George Mason Murray is actually a graduate student at San Francisco State, but he does have teaching duties. He teaches some introductory English classes, and he is very popular, specifically with the students that are now part of this TWLF. He's also the Minister of Education for the Black Panthers. He has recently gone to Cuba and made a speech where he has allegedly said that we shouldn't be sending Black and brown soldiers from the United States to go kill other oppressed Black and brown people to fight for some freedom that they don't feel like they even have here. He phrases it a lot better than I did, but he also uses a lot of words that I can't use. I can say that he calls LBJ a cracker. The Board of Trustees votes to ask the president to remove him from his teaching duties. the president declines to do so, which is pretty cool, except for then the Board of Trustees is like, oh, did we say we were asking you? We're telling you, do it. And the students say, if you let them go, we're going to strike. And they do, and they do. There are about 400 students that show up outside the administration building, which is not a big percentage of the student body. And a lot of this stuff that they do in retrospect, it just doesn't sound like that big of a deal. Like they put stink bombs in the toilets, and somebody throws a typewriter through the glass of one of the windows in the administration building, and they do bust into classes because classes are still going on, and they sort of bust into these rooms, and they're like, what are you doing? We're on strike. Class is dismissed. And then they also use that time to sort of educate these other students about their 10 non-negotiable demands that the Black Students Union has, and an additional 5 non-negotiable demands from the TWLF. And the rest of the students are kind of like, some of them are supportive, but basically they're just gonna go to class and they're not really that sure until the school calls the police. All right, so the police are called right away, and they go in hard, and they are not afraid to hit people, they're not afraid to beat people, they're not afraid to arrest people, and the level of brutality that the police are showing sort of sways a lot of opinion towards the strikers in a way that they might not have otherwise. But in terms of being required to open the school back up, that is sort of being called for by the governor of California at this point. You've probably heard of this guy, a fella named Ronald Reagan. Ultimately, Smith tries to sort of play the in-between, and he's like, okay, we're going to shut the campus down, but it's going to be open, but it's just going to be open for this convocation where we discuss what we need, and that nobody's happy. Nobody is happy with that. So ultimately what he decides is he is going to shut the campus down a week early for Christmas, and sort of hope that everybody kind of simmers down. They don't. College is back in session on January 6th, and it has not settled down. And at this point, President Smith is basically like, where do I put my resignation? And they appoint this guy, Dr. S.I. Hayakawa, who is a professor of semantics. He is Canadian-born of Japanese descent. And so it's, on the one hand, like, okay, so we put this person of color into this position, but they could not have found a more law and order person to fill that slot. He's like, nope, not on my watch. We are not having this strike. You are not getting any of your demands met. The police aren't going anywhere. He even, he personally climbs up on a truck and rips out the sound cables that are powering the students' amplification system. And he cuts a figure, too. I mean, he's like this really regular-looking, middle-aged 1969 guy, but he wears this, little tam o' shanter with a little puffball on the side. It's odd. And he does not have the support of the teachers. And in January, the teachers join the strike. They want the students' demands met. They also want police off campus, and they want more self-determination within curriculum and that. But they also want the power of collective bargaining in the state of California. So all of this stuff has happened. You've got the Black Students Union and their demands. You've got the Third World Liberation Front and their demands. You've got the American Federation of Teachers and the Students for a Democratic Society. Then you've got just people from the community, because everybody is involved. This is national news. Then over on the other side, you've got the cops, but not all of them, because a group of Black officers have formed something that they call Officers for Justice, and they're like, we're not going to San Francisco State. On January 23rd, over 400 students are arrested. Many more are beaten and injured, but some of those students, particularly the leaders of the strike, are in jail for over a year. Now, it's kind of weird because everywhere you look, like I said, they say, oh, the real thing that really started it is George Mason Murray, but nobody really says, here's what actually ended it, because all I'm reading is Hayakawa is, no, 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 we're not having this, Reagan is backing him, and then all of a sudden, on March 20th, they settle, and it's over. So the strike ends, and the students do not get all of their demands met. Notably, they don't get George Mason Murray reinstated as a teacher, but they do get a College of Ethnic Studies with the dean and with 22 faculty members full-time. And that school still exists today. And in fact, a number of the students that were involved in the strike have gone on to become professors in the College of Ethnic Studies, and a lot more of them have gone on to be attorneys and teachers and administrators and activists. So no, they didn't get everything that they wanted, and it was a really rough 4.5 months. But they changed higher education in this country forever. I have pasted cat photos to liquor bottles and hung them from my wall. So thank you so much for joining me, everybody. Like I said, I will be making a video of all of the other letters written into the I-Exchange. That will be on my Patreon. I will post some links about additional information around these strikes to my Facebook and Instagram, so check those out. And click like and subscribe here, because next week is going to be a whole new month, and so it's going to be a whole new decade and year. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. It's so dark.